Welcome to the Hastings Shadmary Show with your hosts, Andee Hastings and Mally Shadmary. Dive into the heart of family law as Andee and Mally bring clarity to legal challenges, celebrate client victories, and share the wisdom of their combined expertise. Get ready for a journey into empowerment and advocacy right here where your story matters.
Hello, and welcome to the Hastings Shadmary Show, where we delve into the heart of family law and the stories that shape our lives. I'm Mally Shadmary, and joining me is not Andee Hastings. She's busy in court today, but I've got Kendall Walker.
Yay!
Hello.
Hello.
We are so happy to have her.
Oh,
Kendall
to be
is
here.
kind of head of sales and marketing at our firm, and she's become part of the heartbeat of this firm. So we are so happy to have her. I know you guys have seen her here and there, and she'll be featured. But she's a wild one. We love her.
Yes, and I'm so happy to be here. I say it every week, but I'm so happy to be here.
So everybody knows what I'm going to ask you. Kendall, are you feeling like a warrior or a diplomat today?
I'd say definitely a warrior.
Okay.
You know, it's early in the morning. We had an event last night.
Oh my God.
That was so much fun. And
Yes.
so I'm here this morning. So now I feel like a warrior.
You know, I would say I feel like a diplomat, which is a change for a Mally vibe. I know that. We've been putting a lot of work in on the business development end of things. I had a meeting this morning with one of my favorite judges and some courthouse administration, and I just got to learn a lot about some of the, growth that the courthouse is going through and having business discussions there. And I really enjoyed getting to learn from my mentors, actually a very diplomatic approach to what they were working on this morning. So my heart and my vibe right now is a diplomat. So you're
Love
welcome,
that.
world. You don't have a feisty one.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Oh.
But yes, Kendall and I went to an event last night. We
Sure did.
We went all out, and we're feeling it today because we're in our 30s and we are not 21 anymore.
No, we're not, unfortunately.
But we are so excited because we've been working with Modern Luxury, and it is a brand in Atlanta, a publishing entity, and we are featured in several of their publications, Jezebel, The Atlantan. So we were at an event because we won an award. And we are so excited about that.
Mm-hmm.
We won Best Family Law Firm in Atlanta for 2024 by Jezebel magazine. They identify the best of in every category for the year. And so we were going to show y'all this. Here is our little ad. Can you see it? Look it up if you can't. It's this Jezebel, and it's a feature with me and Andee and our doggies, Angus and Stormy. We'll have an episode about Angus and Stormy one
Got
day.
to.
Yeah. But it was a beautiful event at Damsel in Atlanta. Drinks, food. The vibe was great. It's on a rooftop. Highly recommend.
It's so much fun.
Yes.
It was so great. Yeah. Thank you, Jezebel, Modern Luxury. Thank you so much.
Yes, we love you.
Yes. Yes. Very much so.
Yes. So today, Kendall and I, we're just going to go through a few questions, some frequently asked questions. So let's get going. Kendall's going to head us off, and we'll have a few conversations here.
Great. Well, I think a lot of these questions have to do with divorce.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, I'll get started.
Okay.
All right. So, I think one of the questions, I know I get asked a lot is, how much does the divorce cost?
Right. Which is such a hard thing to discuss. I mean, what I tell our clients is it's going to vary.
Right.
And in general, it's going to vary based on what do you want out of your case? What are your goals? How hard are they to reach? And what kind of advocacy are you really looking for? You get what you pay for. So it's also going to depend on what kind of lawyer you go to. You can go to these flat rate firms, and that might be better suited for you if you don't have the resources, or you're not looking for you don't have a complex situation.
Right.
But the more complex the situation gets, and the more concierge service that you want from a lawyer, you're going to end up paying more. A lot of my clients, they want extreme handholding. They want to be able to get my attention at any time. And I love that. I will give that to you. But it does cost. So you really need to think about those things. That's number one to me, is what kind of relationship are you looking for with your lawyer? Do you need someone? I know if I was getting a divorce, I would need, because of my career, honestly, I would need a lawyer that could think for me, think ahead of the game, be proactive. Please don't make me reach out to you and say, what's going on with my case?
Right.
So it's just things to think about. And if you're looking for these lawyers that are going to be there, and you're getting this concierge service, you really are looking for a boutique style firm, smaller scaled firm, and you need to expect to pay a little bit more.
Absolutely.
I think the kind of bratty thing to say here, and I'm just going to say it, is, you know, a lot of people, they want that concierge service, but they don't want to pay the bill for it. And that's where, as your advocate, my heart starts to get a little broken, honestly, because I get so invested and I'm ready to give that to you. And then to hear, well, I don't want to pay for this. Why are you, you know, billing me to talk to me? I'm like, because you needed me, and that's what the agreement is.
Right, exactly.
So let me answer was that the most lawyerly way to not answer a question?
No, it was great. I know. It was great.
So
it was great.
How much does a divorce cost? So really, I would say there are uncontested cases. What that means, there are two types of cases, uncontested and contested. An uncontested case literally means that the parties went and they agreed on everything at the kitchen table. All they literally need is a lawyer to write up the agreement. There's no more negotiating to be done. Every dollar, every penny has been agreed on. All the parenting time, we're good. Mally, please just write it up. And then we would put it through the court system for them and do all the logistics and all of that. Those cases are cheaper. And if I had to give a ballpark, again, it's just going to vary upon the facts in the case. If it's $1 billion estate, which would probably not be an uncontested divorce,
Right.
that drafting is going to be complex. So uncontested, those are going to be your cheapest. And they are also the most rare. They're typically best suited for people that they've been married for a very short amount of time. They're usually younger and they haven't acquired a lot of joint assets. They don't have a lot in income, and usually they don't even have children together.
Right.
Probably anywhere from, I would say best case scenario, $1,500 at the end of the day. And that was the smoothest, fastest divorce I could ever picture. And then anywhere from $1,500 probably to $5,000 for a truly uncontested case, depending on the complexity of the drafting, questions the client may have, all of that. Then when you go to contested world, people start sweating. They're scared of that word contested. And I always say, don't let that worry you.
Right.
Because the majority of people fall into that category because they can't agree on everything.
I mean, you disagree over a fork, and it's contested.
Yes.
So, it doesn't, it doesn't always have to go there. So,
So I would say when you're in contested world, which is the majority of people, just means you haven't agreed on everything and you need some help. I would need that.
Yes,
when I'm
absolutely.
in a state of emotion, if I'm divorcing someone, I need an expert to help me work that out.
Absolutely.
So it's going to depend. You can settle a case very early on in contested world, and then you're done, and it's going to feel uncontested to you because we settled quickly. Or you can go on to trial. So when I talk to a client about the cost of a case, when you're in contested world, I view it in terms of kind of tiers. It's like, if we are able to settle before mediation, that means we got enough information about what we need to settle, we negotiated, and we reached a conclusion. We didn't even get to mediation. To me, those cases usually are in the realm of $2,500 to $7,500. It's just going to vary on the facts in the case. Then if you're going to mediation, that's adding a chunk. That means we couldn't get there before mediation. We need to spend a whole day together. Typically, if you're going to go through a mediation, your total bill at the end of the day is going, it's too hard. It depends. But I think if you haven't had any hearings or anything like that prior to mediation, anywhere from $5,000 to $7,500 by the time you finish your mediation, could be $10,000. Again, if you've got a very complex estate and there's been a lot of work, especially if people have had acquired assets prior to marriage and during, then we need to do a separate property analysis, a Thomas analysis, it's called in Georgia, and that's going to cost more. We need to do some legwork to make sure we're negotiating strongly. So keep that in mind. The level of complexity that the negotiation is going to take, obviously it's going to increase the cost in your case.
Absolutely.
If you fail at mediation, which happens, and you need to have a hearings, it's very hard to predict what that's going to cost. The preparation can be really extreme or not extreme. So it's going to depend on the facts. I usually tell people, look, if we aren't successful at mediation and we need to go to either a temporary and or a final, then you're definitely going to be over probably $10,000, anywhere from 10 to 20. And that's me speaking from being the type of cases that we handle. That's the type of cases that we handle. Our type of client's typically going to end up paying that based on the issues they're bringing to the table for us to handle.
Right.
And I've had cases go much, much, much over that. My most expensive divorce, over $300,000. We've had several of those. But in those cases, the issues were so complex that it was required. But you want to know what makes a case most expensive?
What?
When the client has not put in the emotional and mental work through ideally before, but especially during the case.
Right.
They are continuously in this perpetual state of emotional turmoil. They are complicating their case and bringing way too much emotion to the table. They may be doing things that are basically your lawyer is having to come in and undo these messes for you.
Right.
And so if the biggest piece of advice I could give is get yourself right, get a therapist, get your head in the game, let your lawyer do their job. You will shave costs off your case. I've had so many people suffer from that, causing it themselves.
And it can cost you a lot more going in and having to fix all those mistakes. So to get yourself organized, I think from the get-go.
Yeah.
It's definitely an important step, especially too when you have, high asset.
Yeah, I know
divorces, things like that.
It's a hard thing to answer. How much does a divorce cost?
Right.
And that's definitely what you need to talk to your lawyer about at the consultation, and they'll be able to walk you through that. But a lot of times, my client will say, "Oh, but I thought it was only going to cost this." We get 6 months down the road. You said this, and I'm like, "No, I told you that if these things happen, it's going to cost this." So it's nice to do check-ins with your lawyer as well. Look at your bill, have a check-in. That's normal. I think that needs to be normalized. I think clients can be very nervous about it. But to say, look, Mally, we're at $10,000. Here's what I've got. Here's what I need to do. Your lawyer needs to hear that. Right. This is a group effort. And if I know what your financial goals and abilities are, don't make me function in the dark. Because if I am, I'm just going to win. I'm just going to keep on doing what I need to do to win. So I think that, communication with a client is important as well about what they can do.
Absolutely.
What about you? Any kind of different answer there?
No, I think you're right. Kind of hitting the tiers on everything. You just, it's hard to come up with that exact number that it's going to be at the end because, a lot of things change during the whole process. But, I say similar things, as to what you just said about the pricing. I kind of divided into 3 buckets of pricing, and you kind of divided it just a minute ago. So, I mean, you kind of hit on it all.
Okay.
So, yeah. So... Yeah. Yes. So are divorce proceedings public records?
They are. Okay. Really? And here is one of my favorite stories about that. So it's not only divorce. This one actually is a child support modification case that I'm thinking of. But anytime a divorce is filed or any kind of domestic matter is filed, except for some sort of juvenile cases and I think adoptions and things like that, it is going to be public record. Now, there is the option that you get the records sealed so that the public cannot see what's gone down in the pleadings in your case. So anything that what it means is that anything that gets filed physically into the case as a pleading, the public can view. And people do view it. There's busybodies out there, and people want to get in your business. I know that. I hear so many stories all the time, too, like women that are going out to date. I'm sure men do it, too, but I hear it more from women. Like when they're dating a new man, they are looking up in public records, let me look up this man's divorce proceedings, or was there a TPO against this man or whatever. So you can file a motion to seal the records so that it wouldn't be public, but there has to be a hearing on that. So it adds cost to the case, and judge might not grant it. The public policy kind of supports making these things public. That's how our law is designed. There has to be very special circumstances in order to seal your case, and you got to be ready to pay for that. It's an added expense. That, for people that are lawyers, for example, or politicians or whatever, and then their livelihood could be impacted by this. It's a thing. And here's an example. It's not funny, but it's entertaining. So one time, this guy he didn't have a lawyer. He filed his own modification of child support case. And he wanted to decrease his child support. And I remember I did the divorce. I represented the wife. And we had finalized the divorce. And it was a great deal for her. She could move on. Money was secure for her. She was one of these rare people that, they had so many rental properties. She was going to get rental income. She had it made and got, primary physical custody of the kiddos and all the things. And I want to say only a few months later, this guy, which we could have predicted, was angry and comes in to file a child support modification saying, I can't afford what I was making anymore. I need to pay less child support. We hear that all the time. All right. So he decides to not get a lawyer, file this on his own. What does he do? He attaches pictures of my client to his pleadings. Again, these are public record. Probably 45 pictures. Okay. all from when they were married, and he had access to like the home desktop computer, and there were pictures of her that he knew about, and like they were sexual. Okay, these were naked pictures of my client. She was beautiful. I'm so sorry. And these were explicit, and I wish I could say the details, and I cannot. They involved sex toys and all kinds of things. He attaches all of these photos, which again, in their marriage, like they had done this, do what you want behind closed doors. That was their thing. But now he's saved them and is using them in a child support modification, which anyone could say, well, how is that relevant to money?
Right.
Okay. So he attaches all these pictures, files this case, and my client is horrified, rightfully so. And I was livid. So we jumped in right away.
Yes.
The judge was livid. We filed a motion to seal the record. We handled all of that. And that case, I believe, ended up getting dismissed. I can't remember the outcome, whether what we did with money or whatever. But I will never forget the panic. I cannot imagine what that must have felt like. And so people may abuse this public record thing. I think a good lawyer is never going to do that. You don't file things just to say, ooh, public record, let me scare you. You will not, you'll be punished for that.
Right.
But people do it.
Wow.
I don't think it's talked about a lot. And I think that the more presence someone has in the community or whether, whatever their persona is in the public, it's something to consider. And the more sort of, high profile someone is, the more careful they need to be with the lawyer that they pick, because a lawyer is going to need to say, look, we're going to file for divorce and we're immediately going to ask to seal this record because we can sense that you're so high profile that we need to seal this. And there's a very delicate way and a correct way to handle that. Yeah. So, yeah. Have you had any experiences like that?
Yeah, no, not as crazy as that one. Goodness gracious.
Crazy.
Yeah. It's probably why you shouldn't file your own motions.
Yes. Yeah. That's a little tidbit. Please don't do your cases on your own.
Yeah. I mean, a lawyer knows better, obviously. They've done, the schooling and all the experience and everything like that. So it's hard to do it on your own when you don't have all of that background.
Seriously. So we just had one the other day where a guy filed so he represented himself throughout this modification of custody case, and it went terribly because of him. And the judge awarded attorney's fees to us because he dragged it out under the frivolous litigation statute. So people try to save money by doing their own case. They make stupid decisions, and they're going to end up paying my fees.
Yes, the attorney fees.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. Yeah.
It's risky.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Now, is it something that you can do? Do you do this during the divorce process? Is changing, if you want to change your last name or, go back to your maiden name or
I like
something
that
of that nature?
one.
Yes.
Yes. So, yes, you can change your name in a divorce. And if you want to change your name, a lot of people say, I just don't know yet. I'll wait. Well, be careful, because if you wait and the divorce is finalized, and you decide to change your name later, the only way to do that is to file a name change action.
Right.
And those are going to be, they're more straightforward, but it's going to cost you. And if you do it yourself, it's a little bit complex. The law is very particular on a name change. So the best option is to make up your mind during the divorce, which honestly is one of the most emotional questions for a lot of my clients. Sometimes people know, and they know very early on, I'm going to make sure y'all change my name. And I love that. But a lot of times it's a delicate question.
Right.
And a lot of times people want to keep the same name so that they can have the same name as their children. And that's great. But if you want to change your last name, the best time to do it is during the divorce. And what we do is, upon finalizing the divorce, there's a document called a final judgment and decree of divorce. That is the document that dissolves the marriage and makes the divorce official. And if you want to change your name, all we need to do is put a little line item in that final judgment that says it, basically. And you don't want to miss your opportunity to do that. So that's the recommendation there. You can always come back and change it later.
Right.
But it's more cost efficient to do it
all in one swoop.
All in one. And lawyers do forget to do it. So it's important. Everybody keep that on their to-do list. Make sure your lawyer is aware or not whether you want to change your name.
Right. And can you change your children's name as well?
Okay, that's a great question. So not in a divorce. It would have to be a separate case.
Okay.
And we could really do an entire new episode on that. Because a lot of people want to do, okay, I'm divorced and I don't expect that mom or dad's going to be present in this child's life anymore. And what are the next steps to do a step-parent adoption, or can we terminate rights? And I won't go there today, but we can do that later.
Yeah, I think we should.
Those things are really complex.
Yes.
But children and name changes, that actually is something we specialize in. So that falls under family law. It's part of domestic law. And I have had situations where, and it can be, debatable or controversial, but like children who have changed genders, but they're old enough to do that. Under, like, the law's designed that they can change their name if they want to. And I've had children who have been abandoned by a parent. That parent just hasn't been in their lives for such and such amount of time. And it has a serious mental impact on these kids. And when, like, for example, one of the kids that is just precious that we've been working with, he knows his dad in his mind. I mean, his dad hasn't been present for many, many, many years. And it's painful for him that he has that name, and he's worked through it in therapy, and he's old enough now. I think he's 14-ish now, and he's like coming into his own a little bit. And this is very meaningful to him to change his name. And it's a delicate situation because you do not want to put in kids' heads like your mom or your dad's not part of you. That is psychologically, that's a therapist conversation. That has serious impacts on children.
Yeah.
But in the right cases, yes, what you do is you go to a family law attorney. And the law is very particular on logistics. So I definitely recommend anytime an adult or a child wants to change their name, get a lawyer, because it's too easy to mess up in a name change. There's just very specific things you got to check off to do it right.
Right.
And you have to have a hearing on it. And the judge has to ultimately make the decision as to whether you can change the name. And the times I've done it for children, you can see the joy and the relief in their little, spirits when we do it. And I'll never forget, one of them was a child who did a gender transition. And I really don't care what people's beliefs are on that. That is not my place to judge. I'm here to just do my job.
Right.
And do what the law allows for me to do. That's it. So I don't care what kind of comments people are going to leave about this. Leave them and let people make their decisions, okay? But, I mean, this child was thrilled. And the judge was very supportive. And it was honestly a judge you might not assume would be supportive of something like that. But I think that judge has the same mentality as me. It's like, not my place. Let this child do what they wanted. Like, the law allows for it right now. We just have to do our job as legal people.
Right.
And that's always a really rewarding thing. So, that's the deal for kiddos.
Oh, good deal. Good deal. Now, another question that, I get a lot when we're talking about divorces is, assets. So when we're talking about a house, selling the house, does this occur during the divorce?
Yeah, I think we should end on this one.
Yeah?
Because this is a good, juicy one. So real estate. Yeah, I mean, can go any which way. It depends on how much real estate we've got. Can a house be sold during a divorce? Yes. Can a house be sold after a divorce? Yes, and that is more common. Right. Your divorce will cost more if we are going to sell the house during the divorce, because we really need a court order that would be drafted and agreed upon by lawyers, or a judge would have to order it. And typically, judges don't like to order a sale of a house during the pendency of a case. What they typically say is, we're going to maintain status quo. Y'all are going to, if you can't reach an agreement in your divorce, come to me for trial, where I will divide the whole estate as a whole. So if you're going to sell a house during a divorce, the real key is that your future ex, your spouse needs to be agreeable to that. Right. Or else it's not looking good that a judge is going to do it for you, and you'll need to pay for a hearing to go get that done, and it have to be extreme emergent circumstances. So if both parties are agreeable, we draft a court order. And it's very specific. And one of the keys that I've been learning is how important it is to have a stellar realtor that can come in and deal with parties that have immense emotional issues going on, turmoil. Everything is an opportunity to pick at each other, including selling this house. So I've actually been learning that there's realtors that are trained in divorce, and especially high asset divorce. So they know how to work with clients that are used to this concierge service like I'm talking about, getting their hands held, a lot of attention to detail, and also these people that are articulate within the realm of emotional struggles people are happening. So I think that costs can be saved for parties overall when you bring in the right professionals. So that's something your lawyers would talk about. You know, what realtor would we use? Because these court orders that dictate the sale of property during a case, they are so specific, and you cannot leave wiggle room in there. That will get abused. It'll be disastrous. You'll waste more money.
Right.
And typically, sometimes we end up splitting the proceeds however we decide in the pendency of the case. And sometimes that can be very helpful to give people some cushion during the divorce or whatever they need. But most of the time, we end up holding the funds in escrow at one of the lawyer's firms until the conclusion of the case. Because sometimes if the market's great or whatever, everybody agrees financially these parties need to sell the house, but we don't agree on what we're going to do with the money on a final basis, because that's just part of the marital pot. We need to negotiate.
Right.
So sometimes if you want to take advantage of a good market or whatever it is, or y'all really cannot afford the upkeep of this property during a divorce, it is good to sell it, and we'll keep the money so we can split it up later. But again, the key is also making sure in the agreement there's no loopholes.
Right.
I mean, that's any agreement, unless sometimes the loopholes work in your favor.
Yeah.
But having a great realtor, I've been learning the importance of. And I've had the pleasure of getting to learn from them. And I used to, be a little more trusting of realtors. And I've worked with fabulous ones, but now with some of the really heated divorces,
right,
I think it's trending, and it should move towards these realtors that really have put a lot of time and work and training into dealing with these hotly contested sales transactions.
Absolutely.
Because it's a different world.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah. And we can give you, referrals for, some of these real estate agents that we're talking about, because we've definitely done a lot of networking and good relationships with them. Yeah. So.
Oh yeah, we know who to go to. If you ever want to know who to go to or not go to, come on over. We'll tell you the truth if you can't tell.
Yes.
Kendall, thank you for doing this with me today.
Thank you. This was very informative. Yes. I learned a lot.
I always have so much fun with you. I wish we could sit here all day and just chat.
We really could.
Well, thank you all for joining us. Please come give us a follow. We're on Instagram, Facebook at Hastings Shadmary. Look us up on YouTube, Spotify. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.